Sofia Reyes had worked at the small family-owned diner, Rosie's Corner, in Austin, Texas. For nearly 4 years, she knew the rhythm of the place by heart. The hiss of the grill, the jingle of the front door, the regulars who came in every morning for their usual orders. It was a simple, honest life. One she had built for herself after moving to the city alone with barely enough money to cover her first month's rent. One rainy Monday morning, a new face walked into the diner. He introduced himself simply as Daniel, wearing a worn flannel jacket and jeans. Nothing about him suggesting he was anything more than an ordinary man looking for a job. He asked Sofia's manager, old Mr. Alvarez, if there were any open positions, explaining he needed work and was new to the area. Mr. Alvarez, always kind-hearted, offered him a temporary job as a dishwasher and part-time cook's assistant. What none of them knew was that Daniel was, in reality, Daniel Whitfield, the reclusive CEO of Whitfield Technologies, a multi-billion-dollar software empire. After months of feeling disconnected from ordinary life, buried under boardroom politics and constant media scrutiny, Daniel had made an impulsive decision to disappear for a while under a false identity, working ordinary jobs just to remember what life felt like outside the walls of his glass office towers. His assistant and closest friend, Marcus, was the only person who knew the truth, quietly managing his company's affairs while Daniel was on a personal leave of absence that the public believed was for health reasons. Sofia and Daniel worked closely together over the following weeks. She taught him how to properly stack dishes without breaking them, laughed at his clumsy first attempts at plating food, and slowly, without either of them intending it, a friendship began to form. Daniel found himself drawn to her easy warmth, her sharp humor, and the quiet resilience she carried after years of working hard for everything she had. Sofia, in turn, appreciated how down to earth Daniel seemed, especially compared to the entitled customers who sometimes wandered into the diner expecting special treatment. They began spending time together outside of work, long walks along Lady Bird Lake, quiet dinners at food trucks. Sofia loved evenings spent talking about dreams neither of them had shared with anyone else. Sofia admitted she'd always wanted to open her own small bakery someday, something she'd been saving towards slowly for years. Daniel listened intently, offering thoughtful business advice that occasionally surprised her with its sophistication, though she never questioned where a dishwasher had learned so much about supply chains and marketing strategy. As their feelings deepened, so did Daniel's guilt over the secret he was keeping. He knew that the moment Sofia learned the truth, that he wasn't simply a struggling worker, but one of the wealthiest men in the state, everything about their relationship could change. Or worse, she might feel betrayed by the deception itself. The truth came out sooner than he expected. A local news van, covering an unrelated story near the diner, happened to catch Daniel on camera during a brief visit from Marcus, who had come to update him on urgent company matters. A sharp-eyed reporter recognized Daniel Whitfield despite his current disguise, and within hours, the story broke online. The reclusive tech billionaire had been secretly working as a dishwasher at a small Texas diner. Sofia found out, not from Daniel himself, but from a coworker who shoved a phone in her face, showing her the breaking headline. She felt the floor drop beneath her. Every quiet conversation, every shared laugh, every walk along the lake replayed in her mind under an entirely new light. She felt foolish, betrayed, and confused all at once. When Daniel arrived at the diner that evening, dressed in his usual flannel jacket, despite the chaos surrounding him, Sofia refused to speak to him at first, storming into the back kitchen to avoid the conversation entirely. He followed her anyway, standing at a respectful distance. "I should have told you the truth from the beginning," he said quietly. "I'm not going to pretend I have a perfect excuse. I just wanted for once to be seen as myself, not my company, not my money, just me. And somewhere along the way, being with you became the realest thing in my life. I was scared of losing that the moment you knew who I really was." Sofia crossed her arms, her voice tight with hurt. "Do you understand what it feels like to find out the person you've been falling for was lying to you this whole time? Every conversation, every plan we talked about, how am I supposed to know what was real?" "Everything was real," Daniel said firmly. "The only thing that wasn't real was my last name. Everything I felt, everything I said about wanting a different life, about admiring your strength, that was never a lie. It took time, weeks of careful distance, long conversations, and Daniel proving through consistent, patient actions rather than empty words that his feelings had never been about deception. He didn't try to buy his way back into her trust with grand gestures or expensive gifts. Instead, he simply kept showing up, respecting her space, and giving her the honesty she deserved from the very beginning. Eventually, Sophia allowed herself to forgive him, recognizing that beneath the enormous wealth and public image, the man she had fallen for at Rosie's corner truly was the same person. Someone who valued kindness over status and connection over convenience. A year later, Daniel used part of his fortune not to change Sophia's life with excess, but to help her build the small bakery she'd always dreamed of, insisting it remain entirely her own vision, her own name above the door. They eventually married in a small, quiet ceremony, held not in some extravagant venue, but in the very diner where their story had begun, surrounded by Mr. Alvarez, their closest friends, and the community that had unknowingly witnessed the start of it all. Sophia often told people afterward that the greatest lesson she'd learned wasn't about wealth or fame, but about how the truest parts of a person reveal themselves not through what they own, but through how they treat others when they believe no one important is watching.